situation, but the cancellation fee is standard and we can't make exceptions. This went on for another hour. By then, it was clear the manager had left the gym and was handling the call from home. There was an unmistakable note of exhaustion in his voice. "Sir, I've explained our policy multiple times. The fee is not something we can waive." I pointed out, "You've now spent over 2 hours dealing with this call. Considering your hourly wage, the gym has already spent more trying to enforce this fee than the fee itself. Wouldn't it make more sense just to waive it?" There was a long pause. Finally, with a tone that mixed weariness with professionalism, the manager said, "Given the circumstances and the time we've spent on this, we'll make an exception and waive the fee. I'll process the cancellation immediately." Success. But as I hung up, I felt a twinge of guilt. The employees were just doing their jobs, following company policies. I had extended their workday, and the manager had to handle my call from home, adding unnecessary stress to their evening. In hindsight, while it felt good to outmaneuver the company's hidden fee, it's clear that the real cost was on the employees who bore the brunt of my tactics. They were just caught in the crossfire of a company policy that I felt was unfair. So there you have it, my little act of malicious compliance. What do you think? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Look Away Please 510. It says, "The last time I canceled a gym membership was in 2013. They said I had to write a letter and send it to corporate. In 2013. Gyms suck. You know they can just add a cancel button." Another commenter down below called Fishsticks40 said, "They ain't canceled crap. Check your bank records. Also, ask them to show you in the contract you signed where the cancellation fee is. Unless it's there, file in small claims. Even having their lawyer read your filing will cost more than $80. OP, you said you felt somewhat guilty about the employees having to work past their regular hours, but the employees were lying to you the whole time. They said there was no way around the fee, that they couldn't waive the fee. And then they waived the fee. So obviously they could have done it in the first place, but they chose not to." Now that I'm thinking about it, was there really any malicious compliance in this one? OP fatigued them into compliance? I guess that kind of fits. But what do you guys think? If you're on YouTube, comment down below. This story comes to us from Impossible Mind 2065. "You can't put a cashier's check on a credit card? Watch me." Back in the late 1990s, I was doing my banking at Solomon Smith Barney, which had a unique credit card. It wasn't a normal credit card or a debit card, it was a true credit card that wouldn't let you spend more than what you had in your checking account. This meant the money was earmarked but not deducted until the due date. One day, I needed a cashier's check for $1,500 and went to a branch of my personal bank, rhymes with Bell's Bargo, across town, not Solomon Smith Barney. I had to go to the customer service desk and requested a cashier's check, planning to pay with my Solomon Smith Barney credit card. The lady at the desk, who was not particularly kind, snapped at me saying, "You can't put a cashier's check on a credit card." I understood her reasoning, but her attitude was unnecessary. Desperate to get the cashier's check, I argued a bit, but she was adamant and almost seemed to enjoy my predicament. Then she asked if there was anything else she could help with. Cue malicious compliance. I slid my credit card back to her and asked for a cash advance of $1,500. Back then, they used the old manual credit card imprint machines, so she had to go through the tedious process of imprinting my card, getting the paperwork approved, and doling out the cash. Once I had the $1,500 in $100 bills in my hand, she asked if there was anything else she could do. I said, yes, I need a cashier's check for $1,500. She started to repeat her earlier refusal, but stopped mid-sentence when she realized I now had the cash. Dumbfounded, she had no choice but to process my cashier's check. I walked out with the check in hand, feeling very satisfied with outsmarting her and getting what I needed despite her initial refusal. It's a story I've cherished for decades. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called AshamedAd4508. It says, "Oh man, I can just hear the credit card imprint going back and forth. All that frustration in 2 swipes, or more if it doesn't get it the first time." Another user called Cappybur replied to this and said, "Or 1 1/3 swipes, and you hear the dreaded crinkle when it picked up one of the carbons. Then have to fish pieces out of the imprinter and start again. Excuse me, my Gen X is showing, and I need to go take a Centrum Silver." I understand that it was against the rules, and she had to enforce the rules, but there's no reason to be snotty and rude with your customers. OP, you handled this beautifully, and I would have loved to have seen the look on her face when she realized that you were going to get what you wanted anyway. This story comes to us from Dar White. Always show up for work. Another incident of malicious compliance for you. My father always told me, make sure you always show up for work, no matter what. This is my story. I was 18 at the time. At work one day, a 19-year-old coworker told me he had brought a 40-ouncer into work with him, and after work, we were going to tie one on. So after work, we started drinking the hard liquor straight from the bottle, as those young and inexperienced in life do. We met up with a few other guys who had some smoke, so we gave them a few drinks and they shared some of their smoke. I suddenly got very thirsty. I knew I needed a drink of water now. I sat down on the ground and looked up to the others and said, "If I don't get a drink of water, I'm going to bleh." Couldn't finish the sentence. Ralphed all over the place like a barf tsunami. My friend and I didn't go home that night. We crashed in an old woodshed on our boss's property. We woke up, went straight to work, no breakfast, no shower, still half cut, still wearing the same clothes we had on the previous day. Imagine what we two must have looked like. Now, with that image in your heads, let me also tell you, our job involved working face to face with the public. We sold ice cream. We drove one of those ice cream carts around the city and sold ice cream to people. I had my cart all loaded up for the day, still 3 sheets to the wind, sitting on my seat, just getting ready to pedal out of the yard, when one of the other ice cream guys looks at me and says, "Honestly, Roger, you're not going out to sell ice cream wearing that shirt." I said, "Why? What's wrong with my shirt?" Then I looked down at myself. Dried puke and vomit all over the front of my shirt. It was more colors than a rainbow thrown in a blender. It was dry, flaking off, there were chunks. A sliced mushroom from a can could be identified just before it fell off my shirt. He caught me just in time. Had that coworker not said anything to me about my shirt, I'd be out there driving around, "You want any ice cream?" And the customers then wondering what kind of low-life operation this is, thinking people will buy ice cream from them while they drive around trying to sell it wearing puke camouflage shirts. I guess it was a pretty slow day in the malicious compliance subreddit because this one doesn't sound like malicious compliance to me either. It kind of sounds like gross negligence with a severe emphasis on the gross part. If I were the boss of that ice cream company and one of my employees came in looking like that, also still 3 sheets to the wind, they would likely be fired on the spot. If not, they would be sent home and have to sleep it off, because that's just not acceptable to go into work like that. This story comes to us from Dr. Penwood. Of course I will clean the office. Today, I told my wife I would take care of some household tasks I had put off. After a pretty thorough cleaning of the living room, kitchen, bathrooms, and bedroom, I went and picked up groceries and medications. Feeling satisfied with what I had done so far, I decided to relax on my phone for a bit before doing more. My wife chooses that moment to come in and sees me on my phone, and yells that she has a million things to do and doesn't need me ignoring my task list. Despite me pointing out I had done everything except make dinner, she tells me that I should clean the office. I began doing just that. After putting away my laptop, a small box of hobby supplies, and some notes from